Welcome to Multifamily Deal Lab, where your host, Dave Lindahl, dissects recent multifamily deals done by his guests. Dave will extract what went right, what went wrong, and a number of key takeaways so your next deal may be more profitable.
All right, welcome to Multifamily Millions Deal Lab podcast. I'm Dave Lindahl, and I've got a special guest today. His name is Larry Kolster. And Larry, tell everybody who you are and where you're from.
Larry Kolster, and I'm from Houston, Texas.
Awesome. How long have you been in Houston? Sounds like you've been there all your life.
No, actually 12 years. Before that,
Really?
I was in Kansas City. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Who's got better barbecue?
That's a tough one. They're all good. So
Awesome.
I lean towards Kansas City, but maybe that's because that's what I grew up on.
Do you cook it yourself?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you cook it yourself?
I do, yeah. Got a pellet grill, and yeah, I love it.
All right, so let's talk about the deal, the most recent deal that you just did. 62-unit property, mixed use, but you're actually going to take that mixed use and convert it. It was a $4.85 million deal, approximately, what is it, $1.4 million raise?
2.3, actually.
Oh, $2.3 million raise. Okay, good. All right, so let's take it from the very beginning. First of all, was this your first deal, or what number deal was this?
This was my first deal as the lead.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
How did you come up with this deal?
Oh, it's interesting. It was actually off the RE Mentor site. So I was just checking to see what people had posted out on the site. And one of the students had just posted that they had a deal. They were looking for someone to sponsor them. So I called them up and we connected. And so we got started on this deal. And unfortunately, about 6 weeks into it, his employer raised some objections and they had to step off. So we paid them a nice fee for finding the property and taking it over from there.
So you found it off the RE Mentorship Facebook site?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of things that happen on that site between raising money and getting deals together, people partnering with each other. It's pretty good. People announcing the deal that they just did, which is always exciting.
Yeah.
All right. So you get into the deal that way. And then what was it? How much were they asking?
That was the asking price. It was an off-market deal, and we could get it at that price, and felt like we should jump on it and grab it before they put it on the market.
Okay, so there was no negotiation. Took it as is. Explain the property. Explain the deal. What made it appealing? So,
as any good deal, it's got quite a story. A developer came in and took about 12 acres up in Longview and developed
Longview, Texas.
Longview, Texas.
Yep.
And developed 2 hotels, a restaurant, and this mixed-use building. And unfortunately for him, he got overextended, and 3 of the 4 properties went back to the bank. So the credit union actually held it for a couple of years. They put it out to sell. The first buyer ended up backing out. And then the owner that we bought it from bought it towards the beginning of 2021 in the spring, and it was almost empty at that time. It had never been completely finished either. So it was a partially finished, built in 2016. And when we came in, it was at about 60% occupancy. And then by Thanksgiving, it was up to 76% occupancy. And it's got a lot of upside. And so we're really excited about it. And in addition to that, we got into it. We were going to keep it mixed use. It looked like we could make a good profit that way, but the lenders were balking at it because it had been sitting since 2016 and the retail space had never been finished or rented. So they were looking at that and saying, well, that looks like unrentable space. Well, it had never been even offered up to rent. But we made go ahead.
It had never been put on the market to rent?
No, it was all, some of the units were sheetrock, the others weren't, but none of them were finished off. None had electricity or AC or anything.
So there wasn't a leasing agent working that part of the deal?
No. The owner that we bought it from had paid cash for it and was content just renting up a few units and taking them, 1 or 2 units at a time back, bring them online.
Had you talked to any leasing agents about renting up that space and what you get per square foot?
We did. When we stepped back and did the analysis, we realized we could actually make more converting it to all multifamily than we could for retail. It's really not ideal for retail because it's not right on the road. It's about a quarter of a mile off the road, up in the middle of this 12 acres that he developed. And we could get a better cap rate on it. We could get better interest rate on the loan. And when we go to sell it, we'd have a lot more buyers. So we ended up shifting gears in the middle, which is part of the reason why this took 5 months to from LOI to closing.
Shifted gears to go bring it over to on the apartment side, making it all multifamily?
Make it all residential, to convert that commercial space into loft apartments.
How many commercial spaces were there?
12.
12. And so you're going to convert each one of those 12 spaces into an apartment, or did you make a different mix?
Basically, each of those 12 will be converted into 2 apartments. There will be one on the front side and one on the back side.
Oh, and how many bedrooms?
It'll be a mix of 1 and 2 bedrooms. Most of them are 1 bedrooms right now.
Okay, that's interesting. So that must have been a pretty big space.
The commercial units were about 14 to 1,700 square feet each.
All right, great. All right, awesome. So let me see. How did you determine when you, all right, so you do the analysis, you're going to be getting more as an apartment than you are for a commercial space. Where did you get the numbers for that analysis? How did you determine what you would get for a commercial space?
Well, we worked with local brokers and got some feedback on what we could rent it for the commercial space, and compared that to the if we converted it to apartments. And we also got some estimates on what it'd take to convert to apartments, and then ran the numbers, and it just decided in the long run, even though it's more work, it would be better to go ahead and convert it all to apartments.
Yeah, the one big thing is the tenant improvements. You know, that's the thing that kind of hangs out there. What you're going to have to negotiate for tenant improvements when a new tenant comes in, and also, you know, when you're switching over, you know. Yeah, less risk there for sure. All right. So now you said the lenders balked on it. Where did you get the finance for this? This is turned into a construction loan?
Oh, we have a large construction element. Our construction rehab budget is $2.3 million on a $4.8 million purchase. And 1.5 of that's for the first floor conversions. And we're going to add a pool and a leasing office and a fitness center in the front of the building.
So you're buying for 4.8, you're adding in 2.8. So you're all in for 7.6 or so?
Yes.
All right. And what did you project your returns going to be in 3 to 5 years?
Well, in 3 years, our projection is that after improvements, it's going to be worth a little over $10 million. We'll be able to refinance, pay back all the investors' money, and then be able to keep it for another 5 to 7 years, just let it cash flow with no money in the deal.
That's a good return. So are you keeping the investors in the deal, or are the investors going to exit at the refi?
So it's a JV deal. And we're keeping everybody in the deal.
So for those that aren't familiar with the joint venture structure, can you just give a quick insight, the difference between joint venture and syndication, and why you chose to go joint venture?
Well, the main reason that we chose joint venture is because it's a great deal. We had 3 investors that came in and were willing to provide all the money that we needed. And so it made it kind of easy. We didn't need a syndication because we had all the money raised. So a joint venture, everybody in the deal needs to be active because you don't have the passive investor side, which is why you syndicate, so that you can bring in passive investors. Since all of our investors have done deals in the past on the management side, then it worked out great. And we've got a really solid team of all of our members are seasoned multifamily investors. And so we had some great collaborative calls and still do. We have everybody on the team participating in the weekly calls with the management team.
Okay, so just to clarify for people watching and listening, that even though you had with 3 people in the deal, that still could have been a syndication, because if the other 2 people don't have management responsibilities and you're pretty much controlling the deal, you or one other, because the definition of a syndication is two or more people in a deal, and the other people don't take part in management decisions. So you bring three people into the deal. Talk about that conversation about how this is going to be a joint venture deal instead of a syndication. And I guess it would all start with, where did you find these people? Where did you get these people for the deal?
So they were all people that already knew. So worked with a team, already mentor team with Rebecca and Brian, and they are assisting me and our partners in the deal. And
Rebecca Stupenagel.
Yes.
She was just at, they were both just at an event that we did last week, Killzone event.
Right.
And I introduced her as the person with the most interesting last name in real estate.
That is
Stupenagel. Yeah. Because when I think of Stupenagel, I think of Schnitzel. And she admitted to the fact that she is German, of German heritage. So they go together well. But that name just rolls off your tongue, Stupenagel. It's great.
Yes, that's why she's always Rebecca when I talk about her.
Yeah. Oh, so that's awesome. So I wasn't aware that they were part of this deal. So that's good. So you bring them into the deal. You guys talk about JV. Who brought up the JV situation? Was it them?
Yeah, actually, Rebecca brought it up.
Yeah.
So I'm in several other deals as part of the JV team with Rebecca and Brian, but not as the lead. Where this deal, they're letting me take the lead and run with it. And then we brought in Kathy Fontana as our property, Class A property management is managing the property. And it's been a great team. And then we've got investors that are active in the deal as well. So
yeah, they're great. I think they did like 12 deals last year.
Yeah.
They're moving and shaking, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay. So now you raised all the money through them, through your other partners?
Yes.
So there it is. Okay. So that's a JV. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Any special type of arrangement inside of that joint venture? Or was everybody same split?
In the end, we all were. There's negotiations like always.
Yeah.
So, but since this is a great deal, we were able to work it out so that we all are coming out in really good shape in the deal. And that's key is, having win-win opportunities. And this is one of them. So it was pretty easy since we were all collaborated. We all got on a call and just worked things out the way it's supposed to work.
I know Brian's really good at rehab. How much you putting in $2.4 million? How much is that per door? I guess we really don't. That doesn't really matter. How long do you think it's going to be before you totally the property's completely ready?
A year and a half.
And then lease up is going on right now. So are you making units ready at the same time as converting over those office spaces?
So right now, when we took possession, 40 of the 50 units were occupied. No, I take that back. I'm sorry, 36 of the 50. We had a drop right there in the last month. And part of it was because we didn't want the current management company to lease up the units because we didn't feel like their criteria was up to our standards. So the make-ready units we have most of those turned, and then we have 7 down units that had some damage from broken pipes. This is Dallas, and we have occasional cold snaps. One of the downsides of the units being vacant. And so we're working on getting all the 50 upstairs units online and rented out. And then the downstairs, we have an architect working on the plans right now, working on getting plans that we can build off of. We want to get closed before we really dove into that completely. And so the end of the month, he's going to have the plans ready to take to the city and get the permits pulled. And then once we start, we're looking at about 15 months. And so in order to provide revenue as soon as possible, they're going to do 4 units at a time so that we can get the first 4 units done, get those rented up while they're working on the next 4 units and roll through the construction that way so that we can, instead of getting all 22 units coming online at the same time.
Awesome. What's the prizes have popped up in this deal?
There's been a bunch of them.
All right.
So, yeah, the biggest one was just finding out that we were having problems getting a lender, and what we thought was going to be about a 3.7% rate, which is what the brokers were telling us at the beginning, ended up being up in the sevens.
What?
Yeah, up in the sevens. And
wow.
For a non-recourse loan. And even after so this was the interesting part. The lenders were pushing back because there's this retail space that had never been rented.
Yeah.
And so they said, well, we don't really feel like you can rent it. We went back and we did further analysis and decided, hey, let's just change to commercial. So we changed it, to loft apartments. And so it's going to be all residential. Brokers went back, and now the lender said, well, wait a minute, you're flip-flopping on us. So now we're not sure because you're flip-flopping. And it's like, well, we're doing what was supposed to be a better loan. And we had a loan commitment that we thought we had locked in, and we went back to the mortgage broker and said, okay, we're ready. And then a couple of days later, he came back and said, well, the lender does want to do it now. And so then at this point, we were over 3 months in. And so we had to go back and kind of start over, reboot. And we were going to go with a local bank, and we were working with them, but it became obvious that they were in over their head, and they were talking about, well, we can get the property closed in December and then come back and do the construction loan in January. But if we do the initial loan and then we can't work out the construction loan, then we're not in good shape. So we went back to another lender that we finally got closed on, and managed to get it closed on December 29th, right before the end of the year.
Wow. What did the 3% increase in the interest rate do to your numbers? How does this deal still work with a 3% bump and what you thought you were going in at?
So what we ended up with was a recourse loan with the bank. And so we got 3.75%. And for the first year and a half, it's a variable rate. It's the prime plus 0.5. And then after we finish the construction phase in month 19, then it switches to a fixed 3.75. And so that's the only way we could get it done. And we just decided it was worth the recourse component to get the lower interest rate. So that's how we ended up making it work.
Okay, so you're 3 to 7 to what was the final interest rate?
3.75.
Oh, so it bounced back down when you did the recourse.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. Now on that recourse, was there a clause in there that basically stated that at 85% occupancy for a 3-month period, that recourse drops off?
Yes, we do have those milestones built into it. Yes.
Yeah, that's really important for anybody that is going into a recourse loan. Is that once that property is stabilized, you want that recourse to drop off, and typically you're the one that has to notify the bank because they want to keep that recourse on as long as possible.
Right.
So so get that added into your term sheet when possible. Okay, so that was once. Any other big surprises on that deal?
Yeah. So 2 days before closing, we were set to close, had all the money raised, and we got the final loan agreement, which I'd been pushing for quite a while, and found out that the way that they interpreted the terms, they held the entire reserve amount in reserves, the entire rehab amount of $2.3 million. Yeah. They wanted all that in reserve, and it threw our numbers all off.
Was there a draw schedule?
We have a draw schedule built into the construction loan for that piece. But what ended up happening was 2 days before closing, we found out that we needed to raise another $600,000 just to close. And
they were holding the initial money back, and you needed that money. You need that capital to start the project.
Right.
Where did that money come from? That is a big surprise.
So the day before closing, we managed to come up with another investor that was willing to come in with the $600,000 and get us closed.
Wow.
And, it was a little bit stressful.
So that must have been an investor on somebody's list that they had experience with.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Well, the numbers must really work if somebody was willing to analyze them in a day and give you a check for $600,000. That's pretty good. Answer this question for me. I wish I knew blank before I get into this deal.
I wish I knew. I don't know. I mean, the first thing is I wish I knew how much work it was going to be, because I had no idea how many details there were that you had to go through, and how. And obviously, I wish I would have known where we're going to end up. It would have made it a lot easier from the get-go. But I look at it as a great learning experience. And with all the twists and turns we had, when I do just a plain vanilla straight up value-added deal, it's going to seem like a piece of cake compared to this deal that we wound through.
So the amount of work that it took was because this deal was different, because you were doing a conversion.
Right.
And you had to kind of flip, you had to go back and forth between commercial deal, multifamily deal. Not only did you have to understand it, but then you had to help the lender understand it, and you had to look at your alternatives in order to get the deal done in terms of the financing and what's the best way to go about it. And was this deal dead with at 7% interest rate?
Yeah. I mean, the way it is, we're just at break even the first year, and then once we get all the units online, then we really are doing great. So, yeah, it's going to be tough the first year and a half.
And after that, you get a nice long-term hold.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. That's great. And that has been another edition of Multifamily Deal Lab. Absolutely. See you next time.
This has been another edition of Multifamily Deal Lab. If watching on YouTube, please be sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button, so you don't miss the next session, and review the contact links on this page.